With respectful namaskars to all my random readers and stray listeners. A small article from Grumpy Grandpa Pandemonium, my hospital sojourn or short stay. Do we have any post on manners or etiquettes or a handbook of do's and don'ts for Indians who visit patients at the hospital and later at the residence? Without meaning to offend any of my well wishers who very kindly visit me due to my recent illness, and of course, not at all a reaction based on that experience, this is just written by a post operative, bored, recuperating patient to kill time. So, beginning with the mandatory precautionary disclaimer. All references and characters are totally imaginary and fictitious and an outcome of a fermented brain of a writer suffering from bed confinement induced indigestion. Any semblance to anyone is totally by accidental coincidence. So, can I pen down my observations with the permission of my snoring reader? There are some mandatory questions a patient must answer his visitors once he comes out of sedation. Observation number 1. What answer must a patient give to the question, अरे इतना सब कुछ हुआ और मुझे बताया भी नहीं, मुझे तो अलानी फलानी ने इसने बताया कि तू जिंदा है तभी मालूम हुआ. Meaning, you didn't inform me after all this happened. I came to know casually only from XYZ, very late. To the 10th questioner who asks me this, I said, sorry, sir. Next time when my chest pains, or better still, my stomach grumbles, I will inform you before calling the doctor. Why do these people presume that they must be the person number one to be informed if we go to a hospital or conk off? Is it a sign of any social status upgrade? Question number 2. How did this happen? In my case, I had an infected foot and a toe had to be amputated. To the 5th person who asked me this question, I replied, well, I kicked my own butt and a foot got infected. Such people miss your satire. The next logical question innocently follows, but don't you clean your own butt? And then, turning to the lady friend, they will say, didn't I always tell you he has steel balls? And before you can turn crimson red, the angelic lady friend will nod her head and ask, हाँ भाई साहब आपने ये की कैसे मैनेज किया? Meaning, how did you manage such a kick? No, dear reader, I am not rude, nor do I exaggerate. Observation number 3. Well intended, impractical suggestions. Arey, you must walk and jog, said one pot bellied well wisher. I feebly mumbled, doctors have advised not to move the operated foot. They at once pounced on me with their horror stories. XYZ did not move his foot. Result? Blood clot. Clot reached brain. XYZ dead. So you must jog your feet in bed. Such reassuring, confidence building advice. Observation number 4. Hospitals are a social club or a chit chat chat corner joint. Indians in particular are enchanted by the hospital atmosphere, which, after a few initial moments of reverential silence and soft toned murmur, gets magically transformed into a social club when common friends, or in Facebook language, a shared mutual friend, meet at your hospital bed place. It's almost like a doping joint. All visitors succumb to the social club atmosphere of the hospital, which is not a bad thing per se, for the patients do need entertainment of the loud laughter variety. Observation number 5. The law of subtle pleasure derived when you see someone worse off than you. Hospitals show the deeply hidden evil, wicked nature within you. No reassuring words of your friends and doctors help you as much as seeing another human in greater distress than you are in. It shows that you are still God's child, though maybe not the most favorite one. I got the will to survive and enjoy life when I saw an older man with an amputated foot in a condition more worse than me. Sorry, it helped me more than all those goody goody life messages and friendly backslaps. It is somewhat like the solace and joy a student in a class gets when, while holding the second last rank in the exam, he meets the last ranker. It's a joy perhaps almost equal to that of the first ranker. The second last ranker may have failed the exams, but he is not the last ranker. Of course, needless to say, the very last ranker in hospitals are beyond joy and sorrow, for they have already left the world school. Observation number 6. Recycling hospital goodies. As Indian conditioning requires us to take some fruits or biscuits to the patient, he is eventually transformed into a fruits or biscuits recycler or distributor. Observation number 7. Our physical and mental states are almost always out of sync with the hospital head nurse's requirements. When you are all tired and sleepy, they will pounce on you at an unearthly hour, subject you to a sponge bath, take that daily vampire's dose of blood, inject antibiotics powerful enough to dope a camel. And just when you feel fresh and preppy, you hear that booming voice calling out, "Bed number 5, don't ever exert. Hasn't the doctor instructed total bed rest for you?" It's a voice you haven't heard since school days and strangely similar to, "Student on bench number 5, I can see what you are up to." Observation number 8. The longest night. No, sir, I am not referring to a war movie or jailbird sentenced to the gallows. It is the night before the day of discharge. After I have resigned myself to the rest of my life in jail, hospital bed, the doctor utters that magical Akashvani. "Tomorrow you will be discharged. Come prepared with all your life savings, and after selling off your wife's Mangal Sutra to settle the hospital bill." Hallelujah! There is almost a divine aura surrounding the doctor at such times. Observation number 9. The actual day of discharge. It's a surreal experience. You wake up, or rather, you have never slept, even before the head nurse awakens with a clarion call. The daily hospital rituals of sponge bathing, vampire bloodletting, injections take on a deeply mystifying meaning associated with karmic laws. Yes, sir, they have a cathartic, soul cleansing effect, much as the ecstatic effect of the prenuptial haldi ceremony. Observation number 10. The friend who has promised to drive you home encounters the fiercest traffic jam but arrives only a few hours late to take you home. My wife overcomes the temptation to decamp with my life savings and sacrifices her life's dream of a holiday abroad at the hospital's accounts and bill settling altar. And finally, after all the rituals are complete, the discharge card is read out to me. At this stage, I will agree to any damn written word, even if it mandates me to change my religion. And glory of glories, those vampire nurses get transformed into heavenly angels. I almost hear divine music, and they remove those needle insertions for intravenous injections. I am free at last. I almost get a feeling of ethereal flight. The ward boys surround me, exhibiting great concern at a level never displayed before during my hospital stay. My hand willingly and spontaneously reaches to my pocket and parts with some pieces of paper. The rest of the journey home is like trip to Newfoundland, a sense of deja vu. The same sunshine, road, pits, neighborhood landmarks, smells and noises, and a society's dozing watchman, all are seen and experienced with a deep, intense sensitivity never felt before. And finally, I enter heaven, my humble abode, holier than Kailash and more palatial than Buckingham. I am home at last. Observation number 11. Venue home. Situation compulsory post operative bed rest after hospital discharge. Situation further aggravated by visitors at home. While a hospital guest imposes no host like responsibilities or duties on the patient or his family, post discharge visitors at home are a different story altogether. Indian conditionings impose on a host a divine duty of offerings to the guests. I noticed my spouse rushing out in a hurry. I thought it must be for my medicines. Overwhelmed by this rare act of spousely duty, I said, "My medicines can wait. Where are you rushing off to at this unearthly hour?" She retorted, "It's not for you, it's for the Sharmas. They're coming now to see you. I'm going to get Roo Afza, which is a sweet cooling drink. We can't serve tea in this hot summer. Thank God it's not your sister's family. She won't go without a whole day's meal. And it's the maid's day off tomorrow. Take care of you and also of these heartless in laws. It's my pot of broken luck. Whom to blame?" I leave the rest of the histrionics to the reader's imagination if not supported by his own experience. Observation number 12. Have you noticed that your spouse is a natural instinctive actress who can put all professional actresses to shame? Ranging from Nargis, Nutan and Meena Kumari to Smita, Shabana or Madhuri. It's amazing how they blend multiple talented roles and exhibit their acting prowess in crisis-like situations. Venue, my home after hospital discharge. My spouse has cleaned and sparkled the house on a scale equivalent to that of Diwali minus the decorations. The furnishings are suitably deglamorized to give a non-festive look. I spy my spouse in a sari never worn before. "Did you not say this sari is too dull for any occasion?" I ventured to ask. She replied in a huff, "Yes, it is most suitable today. It is the maid's day off. Your sister is visiting us today. It's not too flashy, else your sister will think I do not care about you, but only my dress. After all this slave work, all you get is a taunts." Husbands can never guess which innocent question can trigger off a flood of tears. To redeem the situation, I asked in a confused mental state at my romantic best, "Then why not wear that white sari? You look so virginal." She almost blushed and said, "Oh, that is reserved for funeral visits. I would have worn it, but you wouldn't cooperate. It's my own broken pot of luck. Whom to blame?" The flood of tears, which had a brief lull, suddenly burst forth again with the force of a tsunami. I almost felt guilty for recovering and returning from hospital and depriving her of the opportune occasion to wear that white sari reserved for funerals in which she looked so enchanting. I suppose I can only give her hope by saying, "Better luck next time." But husbandly prudence, acquired by experience and bred over eons of married life, restrained me from further comments, and further histrionics were averted, and I finally settled down into post operative domestic bliss. Thank you, dear listener.